Hi, and welcome to Attack on Mars. Attack on Mars is a 2 to 4 player co-op game about giant mecha versus giant monsters on, surprisingly, Mars. I'm going to walk you through your setup, the various actions you can take, and a sample turn. To start, depending upon the amount of players you have, the board will change. Every player will have a starting quadrant. If you're playing with 2 or 3 players, you can show that by flipping over a quadrant of the board by grabbing it with the left mouse button and flipping it with the F key. Make sure you've moved all the pieces off of it first. After you have the board set up for the proper amount of players, you'll want to lock the board down into place. To do this, right-click on each quadrant of the board and select the lock button. This will prevent you from accidentally grabbing the board and sending your pieces flying all over the place. Next, you'll see that the first 3 columns of upgrades each have 3 techs available. This changes based upon the amount of people you're playing with. If you're playing with 3 people, there should only be 2. If you've got 2 people, there should only be 1. To remove unnecessary tech, simply grab a tech by mousing over it, press and hold the left mouse button, and then quickly move your pointer away. Like so. Then, while still holding down the left mouse button, press the delete key. Do this for all of the pieces that you won't need until you've got the stacks where they should be. You'll next want to shuffle up the available items. For the following 7 bags, grab the bag, and then shuffle it by moving the mouse cursor back and forth, or simply pressing the R key. This will randomize the mechas, corporations, pilots, threats, and the guardian monster each time you play. Each player should then take 1 mecha Each player should then take a mecha, lock it in place, a pilot, lock it in place, and a corporation. The corporation has 2 sides. Specialized Corps all have a powerful once per game ability, and Generic Corp has static abilities that give you bonuses throughout the game. After you've chosen your side, put it over your playmat, lock it in place. The blue cube is used for physical attack dice. The red cube is used for your energy attack dice. The pink cube is used for health. The green cube is used for defense. The black cube is used to signify your monster resources, which start at 0. And the white cube is used to signify your research points, which start at 3. Once each player has selected their mecha, corporation, and pilot, you can then safely delete these bags, as they will no longer be needed. Next, draw a guardian monster from that bag and place it in the guardian monster space. This will be the boss for your game. The numbers on the top part are, in order, attack dice, defense dice, the target number the monster has to hit, and monster health. So, for example, this monster has 7 attack dice, 6 defense dice, it hits on 4s, 5s, and 6s, and has 9 health. Choose the monster's difficulty level by setting a health token next to the appropriate difficulty level and then deleting the monster guardian bag. Finally, take 6 of the growing threats out of the bag and delete them. Mars has 2 potential loss conditions. Either only 4 undestroyed locations remain on the board, or all the mechas have been destroyed simultaneously. The win condition requires players to advance monster research to level 3 and then a mecha must enter the rift and fight the guardian monster. I'll cover combat though in a little bit. To start the game, we seed a random destroyed city in every remaining quadrant. Do this by picking up the blue d4 and rolling it. Where it lands is the city number you've lost in your quadrant. For example, in Alpha, we've lost 2. Additionally, to get that quick mouse over look so that you see everything magnified, press the Alt key. Meanwhile, for quadrants that don't have an associated player, you've already lost those 4 cities. Never said it was going to be easy. You next seed your starting 6 monsters from the initial threat bag. Do this by rolling both d4s. The gold d4 stands in here for an alphabetic d4. 1 equals alpha, 2 equals beta, 3 equals gamma, 4 equals delta. If you roll for a quadrant that doesn't exist, re-roll the gold d4. Monsters will not spawn in a column with a destroyed city. They will also not spawn in a column with another existing monster unless there are no other options available, something that can happen early in 2-player games or in the late game. After all the monsters have spawned, each player should place their player token in any one of their starting quadrant cities, destroyed or not, and then you may choose who you want to be the start player. If a monster would spawn in a location where another monster already is, or in a destroyed city, you can choose to place it either clockwise or counterclockwise of that location, depending upon where the next closest available space is. In this case, since there's already a monster at Beta 1, and there's already a monster at Beta 2, it would spawn this monster at Alpha 4. Players then place their mechas in any of their starting cities, and may choose who goes first. On the player's turn, you start off by gaining 3 research points. And you have 3 action points. There are 7 potential actions. 2 can only be done in cities. Doesn't matter if the city is destroyed or not, or if it is in your home quadrant. These 2 actions are repairing, which restores your mecha to full health, and researching, which increases your research points by 1. You have 4 actions you can take anywhere on the board. You can move for an action. Moving can only be done in, out, clockwise, or counterclockwise. You cannot move diagonally. You can help rebuild a destroyed mecha by sacrificing an action to remove a rebuild token from another player's mecha. You can upgrade your mecha for an action. This action allows you to spend your research points and monster resources at a rate of 1 monster resource to 2 research points to upgrade your mecha. First level upgrades cost 2 research points each. Second level costs 4, third level costs 6, and fourth level costs 8. These costs can be reduced by 1 for each upgrade you already have that shares the same colored border. You can buy as many upgrades as you'd like with a single action. You cannot buy duplicate upgrades. And once your grid is filled, you cannot buy any more upgrades. However, before you can buy research past the first level, you must first buy 2 research items from the first level. That unlocks the second level. After you've bought 2 items from the second level, that unlocks the third level. Buying 2 items from third level unlocks the fourth level. Additionally, all the players can pool their monster resources to upgrade the monster research track. Each level costs 8 monster resources to upgrade. The first level will unlock the second corporation ability, the second level unlocks the third corporation ability, and the third level allows mechas to attack the Rift Guardian and win the game. You can also assist deploy another mecha. This allows you to 1. Move another player's mecha with their permission, 2. Repair another player's mecha with their permission, or 3. Allow another player to take an action granted to them by their upgrades or pilot abilities. Once per game abilities cannot be done via the assist deploy action. Finally, there is a special action that can only be taken next to the rift. You can jump through the rift as a teleporter to any space on the board. However, doing so will incur an attack from the energies of the rift. If the last monster to come out was from the initial phase, it's a 4-dice attack that hits on 4s or better. During the growing threat phase, it increases to a 5-dice attack. And finally, during the extinction threat phase, it's a 6-dice attack. After a player has spent their 3 actions, it's now the monster phase. First, all the monsters will move out 1 space unless they're adjacent to a mecha. If a monster is surrounded by multiple mecha, monsters prefer to move in the following order: out, clockwise, counterclockwise, and in. If a monster moves into a city, it destroys that city. If a monster is in a destroyed city, it'll move to the next closest city that hasn't been destroyed, preferring to move clockwise. Yes, monsters are jerks. After all the monsters have moved, roll the d4s to spawn a new monster. First, draw monsters from the initial threat phase, until no more monsters can be drawn. After all those monsters are gone, move on to the growing threat monsters. After all those monsters are gone, move on to the extinction threat monsters. Super fun note, if you spawn 1 extinction threat monster, you have to spawn a second extinction threat monster. Super duper fun note, if you defeat an extinction threat monster, you have to put it back into the extinction threat bag, and then reshuffle that. The monsters just keep coming until you either lose or win the game. After spawning is done, any player who has lost their mecha must discard a rebuild token. Play then proceeds to the next player clockwise around the board. Combat occurs when a mecha and a monster occupy the same space on the board. The following is the priority for combat. First, Beta Corp Monster Tech 1. Second, monster abilities regarding dice trigger. Next, monsters with first attack trigger. After that, it's the mecha's attack. You then trigger any upgrade or pilot abilities. After that, you roll the mecha's attack dice, which is the mecha's blue and red dice. The monster then rolls their defense, which is the second number on the monster's card. If the monster has the Dodger ability, and it has less successes than the mecha, the monster gains an additional success and loses 1 die from its attack. Damage is assigned to the monster or mecha with the least successes. Damage is equivalent to the difference between the amount of successes. After the monster takes damage, if the monster suffers lethal damage, and the monster has the Feigned Death ability, Feigned Death triggers, restoring the monster back to 1 health. Feigned Death is then expended and cannot be triggered again. After that, it's the monster's turn to attack. Regeneration will then trigger, adding 1 health back to a monster that is below its max health. The monster then rolls its attack dice, which in this case is 4, and you roll the mecha's defense dice, which is how many green dice you have. Damage is assigned to the monster or mecha, again with the least amount of successes, and damage is equivalent to the difference between the amount of successes. Poison Aura will then trigger, dealing 1 damage to everything in the current combat, monster and mecha alike. And again, Feigned Death can trigger at this point as well. At this point, you'd go through any additional mechas and monsters in alternating order until everything in the current combat has attacked once this round, and only once. After that, return to the first mecha's attack. A player can escape from combat by foregoing their attack turn. However, all the monsters in the space get a final attack against the fleeing mecha. The target number increases by 1 for the monsters, and the mecha can still defend, but the mecha cannot damage the monsters if they roll more successes than the monsters. Mechas that escape from combat move out 2 spaces. If they cannot move out, they can move clockwise or counterclockwise until they have moved 2 spaces. The current player's turn then ends. If a player's mecha is destroyed, put your player marker aside, take out 6 rebuild tokens, and wait to get back into the game. After your final rebuild token has been discarded, you can pop back into any of your cities that may still remain. If none of your cities remain, put your mecha in the next closest city to your quadrant. That should explain everything you need to know to play the game. If you have any questions, check the fact part of the rules, or ask me via Twitter at TastyCookieGame, or leave a comment on the Steam Workshop. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to talking to you. Bye!